Welcome to the MemberWise Best Practice series. This video is brought to you today by the MemberWise Network, the leading free-to-join best practice network for membership and association professionals. We hope that you enjoy this great presentation, and for further information about our growing network, please visit www.memberwise.org.uk.
I just doubled back to the table there because I knew Richard was going to walk off with my copy. I'm ahead of you, Rich. So, thank you. So, just a little bit about the survey, if I may, before we start. The survey was sent out within an email to the membership of the MemberWise network, and 229 of you responded. What was very encouraging about the response was the role of those who completed the survey, which tended to be managers responsible for membership, responsible for senior management and decision making, and even CEOs. So those people that contributed to the survey were well informed to give their views on what we're about to see today. 4 in 5 of those that completed the survey on behalf of their organisation had members that were predominantly based in the UK, and around about 14% globally. So we had a good spread, and a good spread of size. Some organisations with less than 1,000 members, and others with 25,000, 100,000 and above. So in terms of being robust and being representative of the sector, I'm very confident about that. But let's have a look at the results. As Richard said, I'm going to go through the actual findings, and I'm expecting these guys here to kind of interject and give some of their views on the sector as they find it. So one of the early questions that we asked in the survey was what the key goals are that are facing their organisation. And top of the list is increasing new member acquisition. And we saw that result last year too. So that's very, very key. And hardly surprising. You constantly want to be bringing in new members. Member engagement second, and member retention third there. So very important goals. I don't think there's anything that's particularly of a surprise there, and we've been talking a lot about those issues today. Yep. I think what comes with that, though, is its challenges. And at the top of the list, challenges for membership organisations is the integration with their management systems, with the CRM, with the silos of information that are held there, and integrating with the website. Multiple databases all over the place, different departments doing different activities. We often hear it, don't we, that there's mailings going out here and there, and all sorts of people very precious about the department that they work for. And trying to integrate that and getting some consistency clearly is another challenge. Measuring engagement. Now, I think it was last year we heard a lot about trying to understand if we wanted to develop an engagement score with which to measure members' activity, how very, very difficult that is, and that's clearly recognised as a challenge. And also lack of personalisation. Personalisation, always a big issue.
I think it's probably worth mentioning at this point. Certainly, for the current year, one of the things that I'm noticing, last year, personalisation was the buzzword within the sector. We've got to personalise everything. The year before, it was engagement. And we seem to have come around circle. Again, maybe over the past 3 years, we're back to engagement as an actual topic area.
Yeah.
I know from my perspective, it kind of gutted me a bit was that every time we kind of see retention below the new member acquisition in terms of importance, for me, certainly when I look at current members, for me, I would have liked to have seen member retention a bit higher up on the agenda, particularly you know, when it comes to actually recruiting a new member, the cost of doing that, you know, being 8 times more than satisfying or exceeding the expectations of an existing member. I wonder whether there's something there where we kind of shouldn't try and forget our current members in that sort of journey to try and grab loads of new members. That's just one of the sort of thoughts I took from that.
Unless those that are responding to the survey are doing such a good job in terms of retention, then it's just simply putting money on top rather than members on top rather than losing them out at the bottom of the funnel.
I hope so.
One would hope so, wouldn't you? So when we look at, we asked those that completed the survey what they thought their members' expectations were of the web. And what they said, first and foremost, was that they thought their members were expecting an interactive and engaging online experience. No surprises, I think, you know, we've been talking about that today, but at least membership organisations are actually recognising that. We're very conscious of that.
I think again, and again, just from the observation, one of the debates that I've had with a couple of membership professionals, they've said that that's not the case. Perhaps members don't actually believe that, and 3 consecutive years in a row, you know, those high numbers of individuals have confirmed that that is what they believe their members think.
Yes. Yeah, and they also think that members are expecting questions to be answerable online. So again, kind of this engagement where you can actually present questions to the membership bodies and that they respond back and there's a level of engagement there. So that's what you think that your members require. We saw also an expectation that members want a higher level of self-service on the website, to be able to do things, to be able to renew their membership and to book events and so forth themselves, rather than having to phone up or send a cheque in the post and so forth. And that in itself, that particular point, was 20% higher this year than last year. So much more emphasis on self-service.
I mean, again, from my perspective on this, we've moved over the past 3 years to a nice-to-have functionality where it'd be nice if members could do things for themselves, to an area where, within other areas, not specifically membership, but within other, for example, just shopping from Tesco from their website, all these other experiences, that I think the experience we have when we interact with other organisations, I think that there can be an expectation level there, and if that expectation level's not met within the membership experience, that might actually have implications. Now, before, I think we felt that it wasn't necessary. I think we've moved from a nice to have to a kind of a must have. I don't know what you think, Neeru.
One of the reasons CRM integrations with websites are failing, and 52% of them have failed, is because oftentimes you think about what you do within the organization, and that's not exactly how a member wants to engage with you. So you can do your integration, but it doesn't go very far. It doesn't work very well because it doesn't actually allow the member to do the things that he wants to do. He wants to have a personalized experience, not necessarily with you, but actually with other members. And although LinkedIn and Facebook are a great platform for sharing information, but very few members, particularly professional bodies, are willing to put themselves out in the open in the way that you think they might do. And although it's good to have discussion groups, it's better than none, but the opportunity that you are missing out on is to actually enable your members to connect with other members, to allow members to have their own public profile within your private community and allow them to share information with each other. That will be a reason why they will use their mobile devices to actually come to the website to you. They're not going to get up in the morning and come to the website because they've got nothing else to do. There has to be a reason. And the information you push to them through personalized emails, interesting though it is, it doesn't really create the traction that you want. So one of the things the report highlights over and over again, the people who are successful are the ones who are allowing their members to engage with each other. And that ought to be something that you think about when you go back home and ask yourself a difficult question. What is it our website is doing to allow members to come together?
So we've got we've got an online engaging experience, we've got questions being asked and a two-way conversation, we've got self-service, and consequently we've got a value-driven experience. That's what we believe that members actually want. So how's that going to be delivered? Well, with the support of a content management system. And we asked members just how old their system is. And you can see there that we've got over 22% that are over 5 years. And we have to ask ourselves whether we can deliver what members need now with systems of that age. The data tells us that 30% of members aspire to replacing their system in the next 12 months, and another 14% are hopeful. And I suspect that would really like to, but I know I'm not going to get the money. But that gives us a feel of how many people are getting that sense that they need to update, they need to have the technology there that permits the level of engagement that their members require. So if I move on and just look at CRM and integration, because if you remember, that was one of the key challenges that membership organisations like yours are facing. And what we see is around about half of the membership organisations are saying that they have a system whereby the CRM is integrated with the website, leaving 40% there that haven't. So some really big challenges in the marketplace still to deliver what members want.
What are your observations, Neera? I mean, why do you think that is so?
I think whenever you have a back-end database, an internal office database, it's designed differently. When you're online, the kind of data that you want to share, data and content becomes one and the same. Publishing content on a website is hard work, and it's really not interesting. But if you can allow members to generate their own content by their participation, then other members are interested. So integration becomes really complex when you try to put multiple databases together. And it always looks easy until you get into the detail. And it's that detail that tends to trip people up. If you are determined to do this, then ask your provider not what they can do for you, because with technology, anything can be done. There is nothing that can't be done. Ask how it would be done. And it's the how that you should investigate. And it's the how that's going to help you to determine whether you're ever going to get there or not. But whenever you end up with, pages of specifications that says this is what should happen on a website, you're already in trouble. And try to, as Helen said, you have to try to get rid of these databases, because the more databases you have, the more inaccuracies you have, and the more integration you need. And that in itself becomes a problematic way of trying to manage information online.
And what do you think about organisations? Because I know from experience who are that they've got their existing CRM, they've got a new content management system, and they're actually using the functionality within the content management system to maybe sticky plaster functionality that's actually enabled in the short term. I mean, are there implications for organisations who are doing that? Because I think there are quite a number.
Again, the facts are in front of you. Integrating these complex databases, it's never really going to work for you. I know it used to work, but the needs of the members were very different then. They didn't want a lot. But now they actually want self-service to mean information that they want to manipulate, information that they want to choose to share. And it's impossible for you to try to anticipate that for 10,000 members. How on earth can you do that? You have to give them a platform that they can do it themselves.
Okay.
So if you are living with your CRM, that's okay, but try to make your investment on an online system. So try to get your content management system to do a lot more for you. And actually, however radical this sounds, seriously consider why you're integrating and what benefit you're getting from it. Because it doesn't give a lot of benefit. It just gives you a lot of heartache and a lot of cost.
Okay.
And I think there is a lot of heartache. I think if you look at that slide on the right there, I think that shows the heartache. And I think the conversations that we've had at Harnessing the Web conference last October demonstrated that even though we have got 50% of membership organisations that do have the CRM and the website integrated, that people still aren't really happy. I mean, it's a difficult area to get right, and the data shows that. We've got greater satisfaction with the integration actually delivering on cost than we have on performance or the time it took to actually get it in place. You know, those figures there are pretty poor. And in the data, we saw that just 14% of those that responded said that they're likely to recommend their CRM system to a colleague.
I think we've got to be a little bit careful, because I know I always get into this debate with the kind of the supplier, the membership body. One of the observations that I've made over the years, that there's kind of a two-pronged element, I think, to this. This is what I believe is behind some of this data.
And I'm going to agree with you. I know what's coming. I know. Yeah.
If it's accessible, I mean, from my perspective, I think as membership bodies, when it comes to us actually putting together an accurate specification for exactly what we want, and actually doing it maybe with a proper project management methodology, being very clear and not changing or moving the goalposts, I think that's one of the big issues. And maybe I'm in a bit of a unique position because I'm kind of obviously talking to a lot of membership professionals, and I'm also talking to a lot of companies who get very frustrated. And certainly where I see in terms of, you know, the time to integrate, I know one of the big things that I see time and time again when you dig into the detail is that something's been agreed, the specifications hopefully been delivered on, but actually what is delivered isn't really what the membership body wants. Maybe there's a number of different people who are shown what's going to be delivered or what have you, but I think in project management terms, I'd call it scope creep. Kind of things change, we want more, we want less, we can see something that looks great, we want it to look even better. And I think that's where the problems start. I don't know what you think.
I think it's really hard for people who are sitting here to be able to truly articulate what they want. I think you're giving yourself a difficult challenge to begin with. And we get lost in the use of language. You know, in this report, you will see that a shocking number of associations are unable to provide online application or renewal to their members. Why is that? Because it's pretty complicated. That's why. You know, to renew, there are different factors that will affect how much you get billed. And if you're new, you know, there are certain things that you have to fill in. So, you know, you're kind of starting out on a journey that you can say to your provider, this is what I want, and he has the best intentions, and he goes away and interprets that, and when you look at it, you know, once again, the devil in the detail gets in. You should consider adopting best practice whenever you can. Editing a letter is a lot easier than writing a letter. So if you can take a reasonably good letter, a reasonably good online managed application system or renewal system, you can then change the algorithms to suit the particular calculations you want to do. But to actually start writing the letter from scratch, however exciting it may sound to you that you're building something on a website, that excitement will be short-lived, because what will follow is as you can see here, a lot of problems following it through.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the other side to it is obviously that there's a room for us as membership professionals to kind of to really work out exactly what we want and nail it down. I think the other element, though, as well, and this is something that I remember the conversation at the Harnessing. I don't know if did anyone in here come to the Harnessing the Web conference in October? We actually got onto the topic of service level agreements, and basically there's also, okay, we need to articulate clearly what's going to happen. But equally, when it comes to the relationship we've got with the suppliers, we actually do need to have a kind of two-way understanding of what we expect and what you're going to provide. And I think on a number of occasions that kind of isn't met. And again, I see that a lot of organisations are, for example, bringing in third-party consultancies midway through their projects. If you're bringing a consultancy in midway through a project, my gut instinct is that something wasn't right or something wasn't working for that to have to happen. Whether that's a good, well, I don't think it is a good thing to be honest, but it shows that there are two parties talking very different languages, and the money that's being spent on these pieces of equipment, you know, the hundreds of thousands of pounds, we need to get it right. And I think as a sector, there's something there that we need to focus on.
Yes, and I just point out that frustration is coming through on that data. So I would agree with you. The larger proportion, over half of members would agree that it's really important that organisational content on the web can also be accessed on the mobile. Yet less than half actually indicate that their websites are mobile friendly. That figure has gone up by 17%. So we're making headway, but it's still really not good enough. I think you'll agree as you look down at your mobiles and keep up to date today.
As a matter of interest, how many of you have got a mobile-ready website? Please use your cards, yes or no. %?
Yeah, it's very mixed. Very mixed indeed.
Yeah.
What we've got here is just over half are saying that their website allows content sharing via social media. And again, I think that's really still quite disappointing, given again how important social media is. And we've seen figures of over 60% that are using social media in much the same way as MemberWise is today. Having the Twitter wall and so forth. So it is being used, but integrating that into the website is still rather slow, I think, and I think we'll see those figures go up. We didn't ask that question on the survey last year, so we can't see what the movement is, but hopefully next year we will see an increase. And web content that's personalised, we've got at 41% there, and that's an increase of 21%. So again, the strides being made, still quite slow. You know, we've been talking about personalisation for a number of years in the membership sector. We're getting there, and that's encouraging. So what are we using in terms of social media? Well, I don't think there are any surprises there in the top three. I don't know whether you think there's a surprise there for YouTube. In fourth position there with 66% of membership organisations using that. I'd quite like to see a show of cards there of whether that's a surprise or not. So yes, please, if it is a surprise or no. Oh, interesting.
No. I mean, I know for me, even though, you've seen Twitter. Twitter, it was Facebook, didn't it? We sort of changed from the result. I don't know if you're going to agree with the statistical significance because it's over a number of years, but Facebook seemed to be our favourite. Facebook was going to be our online social answer to all of our membership problems. That changed with Twitter becoming I'm calling it the platform of choice. Certainly with YouTube, I think there's something there in using YouTube. Other channels do exist like Vimeo. I think we have to remember there are other quality channels out there, so let's not forget that. With Google Plus, it was a couple of % last year. It seems to have shot up to 21, but certainly I know within our environment, within the membership sector, I'm not kind of seeing a great deal. I'm seeing people try it in, but it's not quite happening.
Really getting there somehow. Yeah.
It might be different in other sectors, and it'd be great to share maybe those examples at some point.
Yeah, I think just going back to those four, with Richard mentioning Facebook. Facebook is the one that really hasn't grown very much in terms of bringing it onto the websites. The others have much more. I think
as well with Facebook, and I'm going to look at my friends from ACCA, in terms of the actual journey, in terms of the membership journey, the platform actually does have an impact. I think very much our kind of student, our trainee, our younger members are going to identify with Facebook as at that part of their journey. But perhaps our members who are at the stage of their journey where mid-career they've had something that they want to talk about that's very serious with colleagues, peer-to-peer, Facebook's not going to be the answer to that. So there needs to be, as Neera says, some kind of almost like a safe place to talk. But equally, I suppose, what we are seeing is that certainly with the functionality, you're kind of seeing those major players being the platforms of choice by the providers. Maybe there's a limitation there, but you've got to be within those top four. Where is Vimeo? Where are all these other alternatives? Maybe there's something there.
I think it's just worthy also just picking up that small chart on the right there, or those figures which are demonstrating how important social media now is to market the membership and to gain engagement.
Yeah,
I think what is interesting within the results as well is that we're seeing less than 10% of the membership actually collecting member and non-member data from social media. And if we go back to one of the challenges, of course, is getting the measurement of that engagement.
Yeah, we can go one step further. We've got our Facebook pages, we've got our Twitter feeds. We need to start getting into the analytics tools. We need to be reading into it, what's happening. We need to find out who are our key influence followers on Twitter. We need to be taking it to that next level, and we're getting there. But I'll call it a journey, but I think we're only at the very beginning of that journey, to be honest.
I think this is my favourite chart. This one here, really, because we asked you to what extent your members are engaging with social media. And we can see the largest percentage there, 30% of people saying, actually, I don't know. And then the greater proportion of what's left actually around about this 5-10% mark. So this is my kind of favourite one, because we're saying it's really important and we're using it to engage and we're using it at events and to market, but actually there is some recognition, actually we're pushing stuff out, but what really is the level of engagement? I mean,
I think again, and what has stayed, it has stayed very true over the past 3 years. And I always bang on about this, but the kind of the 99-1 rule, it is still in effect on here from the figures that I'm seeing. You've got 90-odd% of the membership or non-members, whoever, will be just sitting back, letting it go over their head. You've got the 9% who will respond to something if they're kind of poked, or maybe the wrong word, but if they're provoked into doing something. And then you've got the 1% of members who will actively post stuff, they'll proactively do stuff. We're still pretty much at that 10%, that's 9 plus 1.
But I think one of the other interesting statistics that came out of the survey was that when we asked the membership organisations to rate their social media presence, the most popular rating was around 7 and 8, which I thought, again, was really quite high.
It's improved, definitely. We were at 5 a couple of years ago. So we are feeling more confident, I think, as we get to grips with what this tool is, and we're kind of realising it's not a fad and it's not going to disappear. It's there and it's being used by our members.
But 63% said they're going to increase their presence next year. So that will continue.
There's a commitment, yeah.
And what does social media do? Well, you believe that it helps your organisation recruit members and to retain members. I don't think there's any surprises there, really. I think that the percentages are encouraging. But nevertheless, we've not got a dedicated person doing it. No. So it's part of somebody's job. So how important is it really? There's still some work to do. And I think if it were somebody's job, then I think there might be more emphasis on the measurement to see how well they're doing at that. But until we've actually got the resources behind it, and it's easy for me to say here because I'm not in charge of your resources, but until you've got the resources behind there, I don't think it will be as fast as perhaps we might like or think it should be. 84% of you now say that you're adopting email marketing tools on your website. As you can see, that's up 24%. So quite a phenomenal growth there. And for those that are automating their emails, you're using those for more of the administrative functions, the welcoming, the subscriptions, the renewals. In fact, Sabina this morning was talking about just that, of how she was using it. So I did think she was a good case study for this data.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And Agnes is going to do a session. She's going to talk to us about that automation process. And I think what we're starting to see, and I think email automation, it's been there for a while. It's been there for our if you like, our bread and butter renewals, our welcome emails, that kind of thing. It's kind of taking it to that next level. And for me, it's when you think of the actual, the annual membership renewal journey. What we should be doing is thinking about the whole 12 months and the idea of actually drip feeding information and data to our members, and not in a bit of a crazy rush 2 or 3 months before renewals, because we want to quickly show that we're driving or providing value. If you've got a list of your top 10 member benefits, well, you've got 10 months worth of content to drive out there. And it's all about kind of spreading that out and making it work for you. And email automation, it enables that. And if we go back to the social media stuff, you know, it's a bolt-on responsibility. You know, we've got all of these kind of extra things going on. Provided content is reasonably timeless, actually it's a real easy way to demonstrate the value of membership and for it to happen without too much resource.
But we have to make sure that we think about personalisation as well.
Yep.
So we have to be a little bit careful.
How many of you are welcoming new members by other members online? Put your card up if you're doing it. How many of you are welcoming new members through existing members, welcoming them, joining the membership organization?
Like recommend a colleague type.
Yeah. As they join, you know, do you have members saying, welcome to our association online? So there's about 4 or 5 yeses. I mean, just think about the opportunity you're missing there. When people join you, there's nothing more interesting than other members saying, hey, welcome to our membership. We have a discussion group running about X or Y. You might want to join in. Listen to what Sue Frogger was saying to you earlier on about their membership experience and how small groups is really the key to creating more and more participation.
Mm-hmm.
So,
CEO welcome?
Pardon?
What about CEO welcome?
A welcome from the chief exec.
No, it's an ego trip, but it's actually more interesting to talk to other members. I mean, it's nice to get a letter from a CEO. I'm not knocking it, but I think if you want participation, you really want older members mentoring younger members, which is a growing trend with online communities. As your older members get to the age where they don't want to take a full-time participation, you're missing on an opportunity of how to leverage them. And you can leverage them by bringing them online with younger members and get them to mentor them. It will cost you nothing to facilitate it, but it will add a substantial amount of value to the people who are joining you and who are members with you.
Okay.
I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to slip past these next few charts, but we are getting some measure of email activity and engagement through these tools. So that's encouraging. There is an expectation that perhaps we could be driving up click-through rates in future, but we're doing all right. In terms of conclusions, I'm not going to go back through what we've already said because I think we are a bit short of time. But what I did want to say is just finally, from our perspective, from a market research perspective, where we survey very many members. I think I calculated that we've sent out surveys to 500,000 members this year for various clients. We know from all the work that we've done that members are very, very time poor, and therefore they are constantly telling us that information has to be very, very relevant. We know from the work that we've done in surveys and engaging with social media that actually it is still very much a small minority of people that do engage through social media. So I agree with that data that we had there. And what I would say is very often we find that those that are engaging in social media aren't representative of the larger membership, and just to be very, very careful of that, because often it's them that are shouting loudly, and often they can be influencing the board, the council, and actions can be taken perhaps inappropriately.
I mean, I'd say from our perspective as well, everybody today has received a copy of the report today. It really is quite... I'm saying it's interesting bedtime reading, but I suppose we wrote it, didn't we? So we're going to say that. But there's some gold dust in here. There is some absolute gold dust. And whether it helps you to influence the people who are there, who hold the purse strings, whether it's the members there who are actually doubting who you're talking to, the report, we've spent a lot of time, you've spent a lot of time on the number crunching of this. I mean, it is, the figures in here are robust. The work that's gone on here, it is representative. It is statistically significant. Use the report completely. I mean, pretend it's your own. God, if you want to email me and just ask for one of the charts, not a problem at all. If it helps you, that's what it's all about. And I mean, I will plug, we're going to do another Harnessing the Web conference. We're going to do it in October. And we're going to go through this report. We're going to find out where the gaps are. And we're going to hold another event like this so we can start to plug them. It's as simple as that.
My last word to you is your website is your business. It's no longer just a website. And think about that. think about how you use the website to actually transact your business, but more so how you engage your members.
Okay, thanks, Neeru. And thank you,
Yeah,
Helen.
thank you.
This online resource was brought to you today by the MemberWise Network, the leading free-to-join best practice network for membership and association professionals. Find out how we can provide you with more practical help and support at www.memberwise.org.uk.